Nightline, Return to Normandy, continues.
Good evening tonight from France, and we are here at the Normandy American Cemetery, where we witnessed something truly extraordinary today. World War II veterans from back home who made the journey back 75 years ago to the day when they stormed the beaches right behind us here. They lost so many brothers. So many of the crosses here read June 6, 1944. It was the largest amphibious assault ever, and what they did here was nothing short of heroic.
In every corner of the country, from fixing planes in this Alabama hangar to quietly reminiscing among treasured photos in Nevada.
Now, this is my war pictures here, all my buddies.
They are the modest heroes who did something extraordinary 75 years ago. You don't know their names, they have asked for little attention. But now, we document their return to Normandy. World War II veterans who were there on D-Day and who are now going back.
Harold, Phil, McMurrin.
My name is Jack Brown Claiborne, and I was Seaman First Class in the Navy.
My name is D'Onofrio Zaccari. I was in the U.S. Army.
My name's Harold Himmelsbach. I was actually drafted into the Army when I was 18.
And we have set out to meet them, to travel with them as they journey back.
Harold,
How are you?
it's an honor.
Harold Himmelsbach, raised in Yakima, Washington. He is 93, about to turn 94.
You're almost ready to make this trip back. How significant is this?
Very. It was the most dramatic time in my life, and I remember best and saw things that very few people would ever see, and I saw it all.
Harold remembers everything. The morning of June 6, 1944.
That moment when those mines began to explode, that was the moment you knew.
Right. You better believe it. It was dramatic. It just blows up in your face. I was saved, other guys died within feeding me.
They had all been training for D-Day. They woke up Harold and his brothers on that ship at 3 a.m., told them to eat and to get their gear.
And all of a sudden, I'm out on the deck when that first explosions took place. So I had no gear on or anything else. I was just, didn't even have my helmet on. And all of a sudden, this explosion took place right next to us. And just, of course, it was a shock, obviously. And it just, all of a sudden, water came up over my head and washed over the top of us and everything. I was knocked around and down. It was a tremendous jolt because it was actually tearing parts of the ship up, open.
That was just the first explosion.
Right.
And as you're standing there getting your bearings,
Right.
a second explosion.
Right. The second was more violent. That was a powerful explosion, the second one. And that's why it did so much damage.
This was the moment brave sons became men.
I remember I had to pick up one guy's head, you know, because he'd been cut and so forth, and you almost took it as the reality of where you were. In other words, you knew you had to do these things.
That reality at 18 years old. A reality he shares with veterans all over this country. Harold McMurrin, Newmarket, Alabama.
People say, how did you get off that boat and go in on the beach? There was a job had to be done. Somebody had to do it. We did it.
Onofrio Zaccari, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Man, I was scared. I didn't realize what war was until that day. It was awful.
At 96, he remembers D-Day, even the smell.
To this day, I have flashbacks. I'll smell diesel oil. Right away, I'll think of D-Day. Can't help it. I just can't help it.
Jack Claiborne, Dyersburg, Tennessee. He was a gunner on that day.
Seeing all of these boys that was killed and just laying there on the beach, and it was just tough. And for a little old kid to handle, and we were all young.
Vincent Unger, Orlando, Florida, in the Navy.
We were the first on that beach on Utah. Terrible sound from the cannons and the bomb dropping, everything all around us. It was a fire, explosions.
And back on that ship, Harold, who woke up at 3 a.m., ate breakfast with his brothers on that ship, had learned he'd already lost one of them in the first explosion.
It was just take care of your friend, and that's what we all did. We were all Americans.
You jumped in to save others.
That's right.
All of these men who were so young when they were sent in on D-Day, now packing up, ready to go back.
I'm ready to go.
Harold with the letter he wrote to his mother just days after storming that beach.
I'm looking at this letter you wrote to your mom.
He tells me he hasn't read it in years, but he was about to read it to me.
Dear Mom, I suppose I should begin this by telling you I am somewhere in France.
He was extremely careful with his words.
You were being careful because of the censors, and also careful because it was
Right,
your mom.
my mom, you know, mothers are sensitive too, see.
And he shows us the photo his mother made him take the moment he returned home. Proof she had her son back.
So this handsome young man is going back to Normandy.
That's right. I made it.
It is a journey they never thought they would make. Harold McMurrin and the entry in his diary that fateful morning.
June 6, 1944. Invasion started. 7:15 a.m. English time.
That would be all he wrote for 5 harrowing days. Harold at 94 drives to the airport. He's going back. So is Jack Claiborne.
This is me sitting there.
Vincent Unger
And this is my baby, my ship.
going back too. Onofrio Zakari, part of the 5th Amphibious Brigade on D-Day.
That's our company pad. We wore this on our shoulders, on our jackets.
All of them leaving home again.
I'm on my way to Normandy.
They have yet to meet one another, but they already share a bond. They were all there that morning, June 6, 1944, the largest amphibious invasion in military history. 50 miles of Normandy coastline, the beaches with code names, Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. And what they did would change the course of the war.
When you looked around and saw all of those ships, did you think this is actually happening?
Yes, I sure did.
Could you see the beach?
It was a couple of thousand yards, you know.
And then they saw things they will never forget. Harold McMurrin, 4th Infantry Division.
The medics were overwhelmed with wounded people. Sometimes they were wounded themselves they would try to perform. Even sometimes they would be in worse shape than the men that's trying to take care of. We all had what we called a buddy, and we knew that that buddy would give his life for us, and vice versa.
Onofrio Zakari remembers the orders.
The officers were saying, let's go inland. We got to go. I can't even get up, for God's sakes. I mean, it was just fire over your heads all the time.
Vincent Unger, 2nd-class signalman in the Navy.
The water was from an orange to a deep red for miles.
More than 4,000 Allied troops were killed, but their brothers would prevail.
When you go back to Normandy, I'm sure you'll be thinking of some of those brothers you lost.
Yep, that's right.
But I'm hoping that going back to Normandy gives me closure of some kind.
Each of these men flying to Atlanta to meet up and then fly together to France. The pilot thanking them before they even board.
We can never repay you for the debt that you have paid for us. Thank you.
Flying to France, one by one, Harold Himmelsbach walking to the gate with his daughter Sue behind him.
Have a good flight, sir.
Thank you.
Harold McMurrin brought to that plane. Jack Claiborne on board too. Vincent Unger and Onofrio Zakari looking out at this journey ahead. All of them ready.
I never thought I'd be coming, but here I am.
When we come back, the return to Normandy, the unexpected moment on Omaha Beach,
Look at all the crosses, oh boy.
and Yvette and his one wish to find a friend he lost 75 years ago with the photo he never stopped carrying.
Nightline, Return to Normandy continues. Here again, David Muir.
We have been documenting their journey for weeks. World War II veterans who were there on D-Day, from Alabama to Tennessee to California, flying to France and then driving to Normandy,
Omaha Beach.
where 75 years ago, they were the young men who stormed the beaches, who watched brothers die. The veterans we have followed have made it back.
75 years later, just being back here,
This is stunning. It's beautiful.
One by one, we greeted each of them again, this time in Normandy. We gather in the Normandy American Cemetery, the site of the first cemetery set up by the U.S. Army just 2 days after D-Day.
As we sit here in the cemetery, you can't help but to think of
That's true.
the brothers who didn't come home.
That's true.
75 years later, do you still remember that day?
Yes, sir. Vividly. Yes, sir.
They all do.
In many ways, it's difficult to come back.
True. In fact, this is my first time back. And I came within, I'm going to say, 1 hour of not coming back.
Harold McMurrin of Newmarket, Alabama. He's often thought of the men who did not come back.
Are you thinking about them right now?
Yes, I'm thinking about them right now because I'm right next to them, so I have to think about it. But I will not dwell on it.
These veterans now returning to those beaches of Normandy. Veterans, hand in hand, returning to where it all began. Harold collecting sand to take home with him. And strangers walking up to Onofrio Zicari from Las Vegas to say thank you.
Thank you for everything you guys did. Very good. Thank you.
75 years after the bloodshed on this beach.
This whole beach, whole section, as far as the eye could see, was just men. Coming ashore, coming ashore. Unbelievable.
And Onofrio had one more wish.
And a lot of graves. Look at all the crosses, oh boy.
To find the grave of the friend he lost. He still has the photograph of him standing before his friend's grave so long ago. And all these years later, he finds him again. Donald E. Simmons, who died on June 6, 1944.
He was in the service with me and he got killed.
There is so much gratitude here. The French for liberating them. A stranger handing Jack Claiborne flowers.
What did they say to you when they gave you the flowers?
Thank you. Thank you.
But this morning, as the sun came up on this June 6, 2019, 75 years later, this time the gratitude would come from world leaders. The President of France, Emmanuel Macron, arriving with First Lady Brigitte Macron with a special honor for one of the veterans we have followed. They joined President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. President Macron walking up to Stand Friday from Pennsylvania. President Trump with Vincent Unger from Florida, greeting Jack Claiborne from Tennessee. And when the crowd gathered here, saw the veterans' faces on those big screens, the swelling applause, and then the standing ovation.
We know what we owe to you veterans, our freedom. On behalf of my nation, I just want to say thank you.
You are the pride of our nation. You are the glory of our republic. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
And then, that rare honor, the Legion of Honor, the highest distinction from France, for 5 Americans, including Stan Friday, who we have followed all the way from Pennsylvania, who after D-Day went far out ahead of the rest to scope out the danger. He was a scout, witnessing 2 concentration camps before they were liberated.
Monsieur Stanley Friday.
Stanley Friday, on behalf of the French Republic,
Nous vous faisons chevalier.
I award you the distinction of Knight of the Legion of Honor.
We were waiting for Stan right after.
Hey,
Stan, congratulations.
Thanks.
You didn't tell us yesterday.
They didn't tell me either.
The French had reached out to him, but Stan had no idea the honor would be this grand.
What was it like up there on that stage?
Thrilling. Like a dream.
At 96, this is Stan's first time back to Normandy. For years, he would not talk about what he saw, partly because of the friend he lost.
The medic that took care of him before he died, he wanted to know if I was all right while he was dying. That's how close we were.
Stan remembering the brother he lost, honoring the fallen. Looking out over Omaha Beach, the two presidents and the first ladies. And for Stan, this day and his new medal is for all of the brothers they lost.
The medal part is for the guys that's out there. They're the heroes. I'm the standby. They're the heroes.
Every one of these men right
I
here.
represent them.
And for this group of veterans who became men on this beach, who met each other to make this trip back to Normandy together, a salute in Normandy. We'll be right back.